I'll just skip that page. Right. Hopefully people can see me.
We can see it.
Good. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this will be the last meetup for the year, because the next one sort of falls really close to Christmas, and apparently no one else wants to come and join playing with MicroPython. Anyway, we've got links updated. Last month I didn't have the discussions, the Discord, or the wiki, so they're all updated now. Feel free to share that slide or those links with whoever you want. Feel free to sponsor MicroPython if you want to. I'll ask you later, Daniel, maybe take a note of talking about sponsorship if it's worthwhile. Damien is going to be talking about Laura. We already know all this. So, Barry, thank you. It's nice to see you in person. Barry, just want to stand up, please, because no one knows you that well. Hopefully they can see you on the screen.
Hi.
Barry's been doing a great job behind the scenes, putting up all the videos on YouTube. And it actually takes a bit of effort and a bit of time, so really appreciate that.
No, the lights on here.
I'm sharing my screen, so it should be on.
We can't see. We can only see your screen, Matt. We can't see anything.
Right, okay. Okay. Is it coming in? Is that working? So. You should be able to see me? No.
It's incorrect.
I see. Work? No? Yes? No.
It's just a black thing, black box. I don't know if it's just mine or...
Hey. That seems to be working, right? Barry, stand up again.
That's better. Thank you.
Bye.
Everyone, thank you, Barry. Thank you, Barry. We'll get there, folks. Sorry, bear with us. And now this clicker thing's not working, of course. Naturally. Okay, so news, although we don't really understand it, MicroPython is officially part of the Arduino ecosystem. Maybe you can shed some more light on this later, Damien, but I think it was just a sort of a clumsily worded sort of announcement. Arduino have been working with Damien for a little while, and they've been making a bunch of MicroPython ports for the devices. It also released a sort of simplistic IDE with all the Arduino badges and whatnot, but there's no real, as far as I'm aware, acquisition or anything.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, good. So you haven't sold your soul yet, then?
No.
But it was interesting because Arduino is such a big kind of world. Looking on Twitter and Mastodon, because you have to look at Mastodon these days as well. Thank you, Elon. It's just like every second post about MicroPython now is Arduino, MicroPython, Green Coots, and it was just a lot of noise, which was, it's got to be good because it'll bring a lot more people to look at MicroPython. So I think that's kind of exciting. I think Hackaday's title, where Arduino brings a MicroPython IDE, that was much more sane sort of article. We push on. PyScript was the other big one that kind of got announced. Anaconda announced that MicroPython is an official part of, or at least they're officially dabbling with MicroPython, is probably a nice way to say it. They're showcasing a tech preview of it, so you could actually go on one of the web pages they're hosting and use MicroPython as the back end compared to CPython. Pretty exciting stuff. CPython is a couple of meg in size in this form, so this is where we're running Python in the browser. If you switch it across to MicroPython as the back end, it's 300 and something K. So it loads a lot quicker. And depending on what your application is, it might be a better option for hosting some sort of Python in the browser. Hot off the press, it's HOTP, everyone knows that, right? There was 3 folks on the Talk Python podcast. Nicholas Solroy, who's been working with MicroPython for many years. He works at Anaconda. There was also Fabio, who's the PyScript tech lead, and what's his name? I can't remember his name. Cannon. I can't remember his first name, but he's one of the big Python folks. So it's a really interesting podcast. I fell asleep listening to it last night because I put it on about 1 o'clock. I'm sure the content was great. It was really interesting while I was awake. Go check it out. I've already mentioned briefly lines, but thank you again for sending some smart Lego. We've got a bunch here we can play with tonight, so hopefully we'll get some sort of self-balancing robot happening. But that was a really exciting thing to see in my mailbox when it arrived. Couple of motors per smart device. There's 4 of those. There's also a device to do color detection and distance sensing. So we will have a play with that tonight. Thank you again, guys. So this is what we're going to try and build. That's the gear we're back to build. In fact, I think that's exactly the same gear that you've sent. Is that right, Lawrence? If you're listening?
Yeah, you should be able to build that. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's great.
So go have fun.
Yeah, looks awesome. Can't wait. I've been charging batteries for the past 2 days, so they're all fresh. 6 AA's per smart device. Anyway, the MicroPython docs, I think this was Jim or maybe Damien, added that little note that you can see to the top of the MicroPython documentation. That tells you that the documentation you're looking at is the latest and may not be part of the latest stable release. So this has caught out people a number of times where they've looked at the documentation, which says, hey, this is a feature, and then when they try it on their device, even when they've got the latest stable release, it catches them out. So I think it's a really good note to just remind you that, hey, documentation might be ahead of what you're running. So there is a way, should take a screenshot of the bottom, but at the bottom of any of these documentation pages, you can choose a tagged release, so you can get the documentation for the release you're running. Pretty cool to see at GitHub Universe, which is a conference for all things GitHub. It's like a 2 or 3 day conference. It's really interesting content on that conference as well, so go check out the link we've got there, especially if you're into like GitHub Actions and things like that. But they had a conference badge which was based around the Pomeranian, I presume it's a Pomeranian Badger, with a pretty fancy little laser cut kind of harness thing. So people were hacking on these in all sorts of ways. I saw some code fly past that was designed to run on the badge, but yeah, it was pretty cool thing that happened. Kevin McElwee, who presented here a couple months ago, is just releasing his Learn MicroPython course. Looks really good. It's in beta at the moment, so he's had a few people giving feedback for this course. He's also producing some videos based around it. But yeah, it's really good ground up sort of introduction to MicroPython. If you've got someone who you should probably buy it, Brian, yeah. For any beginners to MicroPython, it's a really good course. And as is typical with all of Kevin's stuff, really well polished, a lot of attention to detail. It's really well done. The the Python on Hardware newsletter, the Adafruit run, just snuck over 10,000 subscribers. So congrats to Anne B, Umbrella, and all the folks that contribute to that. It's a really good newsletter. If you're not subscribed to it, it's one of the better places to get news for CircuitPython and MicroPython. She always publishes stuff that we send her. So if you want to get stuff published on it, just send it to Anne or mark her with a hashtag with MicroPython or CircuitPython. She's pretty good at keeping an eye on those. That's new hardware. I didn't get this prepared. Wemos have a new board. Thanks to Mike Kowser for letting us know, but it's one of these guys. I can't see it, but maybe you can. Basically it's an ESP C3 board. It's the same pinout as their D1 boards. You'll see it's basically the same as their C3 board. It's just a bit smaller and it's a bit more convenient. It's got battery charging circuit. It's got a little one of those little I'm not sure if it's a Grove or one of those ways you can get. I think it's a Lowland. I think it's their own little 4-pin connector for doing I2C stuff. Yeah, it's quite a neat little board. They're a little less than $8. Pretty convenient and smaller than their original equivalents, so it's great. I did have a package of Lily Go stuff that came in. These are pretty interesting devices. I'm all about the Lily Go at the moment because they are trying to package MicroPython code in GitHub repository. So I can look at this later, but it's not running at the moment, obviously. Got a little display there, it's a 320 by, it's not 320 by 170, yeah. As well as a rotary encoder on the side, ESP32 based, bit over $30 US. They don't give you a backing panel for them, though, which just a heads up. They do give you two 3D printable backing panels, and they do publish like the industrial layout for those, so you can do your own. But I was a bit surprised they didn't put just like a basic cover on that. TRGB, which we talked about last month as well. This is a beautiful little display. It's one of those circular displays. It's a little bit different to a lot of the others around the market because it's quite a bit higher res. This is 480 by 480. They say 480 by 480, but it's 480 by 480 if it was square. So you lose whatever that is, someone do the math. But it has SPI as well as parallel support for this display chip, so it should be really fast. It's also got cap touch sensor, battery charge circuit, and we've got code examples for it. It's
A lot bigger than that.
it's pretty large.
I thought, based on the picture on the circular display, I assumed it was a watch.
It's
but
way
that's
too big for a
too
watch.
big for a watch.
But it's a pretty good display for like on your desk sort of thing, or in the car. Anyway, it's been well made, and they've got, I don't know if you can see, but there's a bit of acrylic which sits on the board. I haven't taken the stickers off yet, but it can stick down, so it's sort of self-contained. Comment. The T dongles. So you can also get these USB-A dongles. You can buy them with or without a display. Again, ESP32. These are an S3, just a small little LCD display. Quite cute. I don't know what to do with these yet, but they will.
Make it print out your password, so if you forget it, you can plug it into the computer, it gets powered, show your password, and plug it in.
S3 is very cap touch. I wonder if you could. Yeah, maybe you could do like a YubiKey sort of thing.
Yeah, the way less secure.
Well, that's you can buy them, I mentioned, without the display as well. I'm not sure why they do that, but it sells out. Pomoni had a couple of announcements. This one was by far the most popular, the Galactic Unicorn, and I think they do a great job with marketing. It's an awesome name. It's just a big panel for RGB LEDs. They've packaged some really good MicroPython drivers for it that are C-based and really quite fast. It's also got like a little speaker on it. It's powered by the IP2040. In fact, it's powered by a PKW. They just sold it down on the board.
Some completely unnecessary yet amazing artwork on the backside that is otherwise bare space.
It's a beautiful board. People are doing all sorts of things. I've got a couple of examples, but it's a really lovely sort of matrix. If you need a matrix board, hard to go wrong with this one, except for the fact you can't buy it anywhere because it's sold out instantly, it seems. So yeah, good on Pomoni for releasing popular boards. They also had the Plasma Stick 2040. I've got, in fact, Martin, I think you've got my Plasma board, maybe. Or maybe you get that. Anyway, there's a Pomoni Plasma board which is designed to control LEDs. It's more powerful than this one. This one's effectively just a Raspberry Pi PKW with some terminals on the end of it. But if you want to drive LED strips, pretty good very. Espoir, I'll show a shot of this later. I think you've got a couple of things. Yeah, we'll talk about that a bit later. Inkplate 2. So Inkplate have a bunch of these e-paper devices. I've got an Inkplate 6 on the originals, but this one's designed to be small and low power. So they've designed it so it can work to 8 microamps. It's one of the 3 color. That is to say, it's 2 color, like white, black, and red e-paper displays. So yeah, it's quite a small little device. You can sort of see from when you look at the back panel. That's an ESP room module on the back. Right. That's a Kickstarter at the moment, folks. I'm sure they'll get coming to that one. Ross Shoes, why don't I have that on there? So Andrew and I, well, Andrew did all the hard work, as usual. But we looked at the difference between parallel and SPI. It is ridiculously fast with parallel. Rush users put this display together, and this is a beautiful sort of pattern. And I think we might have looked at the video last month. But it's pretty amazing seeing it in real life. It flies by. I've put this slide in because someone's done some measurements on this particular board. I'm not sure if it's this one or the Leaf, one of the Banana Pi boards. They're both going to be similar. They're not great for low power. Just as a heads up, if you're looking at low power boards, Banana Pi boards are probably not the right ones to get because they've got things like LEDs connected on all the time. You can't cut them off and things like that. So, yeah, that was the point of that slide. SAMD pool, we've kind of hedged around this over the last couple of months, but I think, Damien, if you can confirm the SAMD, all of the major PRs are merged now?
Yeah, all the major ones. There's one small one left, but that was only opened a few days ago.
Okay. So yeah, we've got really good SAMD support now, thanks to Robert Hamilrath. Robert, if you're watching, thank you very much. It's a huge amount of effort to put together a report. So this was based on Pete's good work, which he did originally. But yeah, we've got stuff like PWM, AECs, DACs, all those things are listed there. And Robert just keeps adding a bit more to it whenever he gets a chance. So there's 10 boards added already. It's probably a good place to add more boards if you wanted to. It's pretty easy to throw together a board definition and get more boards defined for MicroPython. Speaking of SAMD, Scruss, I'm not sure if he's online today, but Stuart Russell, Scruss is his Twitter handle, did a really good blog post on the support for the SAMD 51, which is in the WIO terminal. This is a C board. And originally, there was a few things that weren't supported, a few peripherals weren't supported, but Robert's ticked off most of them. The only major one that's remaining now is we don't have networking support on it. That's because this board has one of the Realtek devices on it to do Wi-Fi, and they're a bit coy on how they connect to it, so we don't actually know how to drive it yet. But I'm sure we'll get to the bottom of that at some point. But in any case, we've got display support. There's an accelerometer in there. All these things are supported on that device now, except for network. They're a great little device. Got one here. I'll do that later. Unicode MicroPython. This came about. There's a couple of discussions that I stumbled into. One of them was from Michael. I can't remember his name. Sorry, Michael. Who was talking about the PyScript announcement and saying the only real, this is fantastic, it's wonderful, except we don't have great Unicode support. And I was like, hopefully that's correct. And Stuart and I looked at and noticed through the PyScript system again, the Japanese text wasn't working. Anyway, this sort of maybe go down a bit of a rabbit hole and figure out what support we do have in MicroPython for Unicode. And Damien, awesome job. Unicode's fantastic in MicroPython. I've been really impressed. I compared it to a couple of other languages. This became an issue at work as well because we were looking at how Go supports Unicode, which is awkward. I don't like it. I think we've made some poor choices there. You've really got to be aware of the encoding. And it's a bit of a leaky abstraction. If you do a string.length, you actually get the bytes length, not the actual length of the string. There's a few weird things like that. But in Python and MicroPython follows Python's Unicode system very closely. I guess the only caveats there are what I've listed. We don't support name escapes. These are these interesting things where you go /n and then you write the name of what the Unicode rune is. We don't support that because presumably because it's a big lookup table. The other thing there's an issue that's been raised for some time is that we don't support Unicode being typed directly into the REPL. So if you copy and paste into the REPL live, it won't be encoded properly because it's doing it character by character, interpretations character by character. So the workaround there is to drop into paste mode, paste it in, and paste mode is actually all interpreted when paste mode's exited. So that actually works fine. Yeah. It'd be nice to fix that, but there's a fair bit of trickiness to go on with that. But here's a quick example that I put together, and I was able to respond to both of those Twitter conversations, and both people seem to be very happy with it. Just got some Japanese fonts, and you can print it, and that's just works. It's kind of breathtaking. This just works even on a microcontroller, though. It's amazing. Having dealt with Unicode in C++, if you know how to do that, this is not fun. Yeah. Good stuff. Projects. Let's get through some of these. In fact, I think that's all I've got, except for all of these other things. Maybe I'll hand that back to you, Damien. If we've got time later, I can go through some other things. Are you ready
Sure.
to? Cool. Okay, so I had my final thoughts, which I skipped over. So let me just quickly unskip over. Random code spewed on the internet. Michael's trying to figure out what it did. It's kind of sweet. That's nice. It's in the MicroPython REPL, so it just works without any modifications, of course. Baseless Clock. Two things from Hackaday which were really pretty interesting. Have a think about how this might work. You can actually put your finger all the way through that. There's nothing in the middle. There's no circuitry. So quite an ingenious design. I won't give you the spoilers, but put your engineering hats on and have a think about it. And one of the most beautiful MicroPython projects I've seen is this digital hourglass. I think we've got. Sorry? Yeah, it's beautiful. So you've got iron filings which kind of fall down from the top, and the numbers form in the middle. Yeah, it's really cool. I do need to try and reduce the amount of effort that I put into the slides, because Melissa's saying that I'm grumpy and unavailable for about 4 days before the meetup. So I'm probably going to try and do more of these sort of showing things through tabs. Seems to be a lot quicker, and because we've got the videos now and Barry's churning through those pretty quickly, we can probably make do with that. So the first one that I had here, I've got a long list which we'll go through as quick as I can. Andy, you mentioned you've been doing a few things. This was a good blog post that summarized some of Andy's recent work. Andy's on the call, I noticed. Some really interesting stuff here. Yeah, so go check that out. You've already recorded Andy, you there? You know, pop your head out for a sec.
Yeah, I got asked by a lady called Laura Langdon I think her interest really, because she works for a company that does WebAssembly, was wanting to learn more about PyScript, which I don't know a huge amount about yet. So I did a live stream with her earlier this week. We talked a little bit about PyScript, but more about MicroPython in general. So again, it was more kind of a very extended version of the talk I gave at EuroPython, which was an intro to MicroPython. And then Ati Grand's asked me if I want to go on his show and tell show, which I think is December 6th. So yeah, I've got some time on my hands at the moment, so I'm going to try and spend some more time on MicroPython.
Great, fantastic. And yes, I will accept help on putting the slides together or the news roundup together. That'd be great. All right, in the interest of whipping through things, Cyped makes have an Indiegogo, which uses that pretty interesting chip that we looked at the other day from the Flow Labs. It's got 3 cores. These things are selling pretty cheaply. They've also got a library in this thing to do TinyML. It is a variant of MicroPython. I'm not sure. I'm trying to get word from them as to if it's an actual fork or if they've gone off and taken MakesPy, which was their original MicroPython fork, and if they've taken it beyond what we would consider a fork or what. But yeah, I'll try and get to the bottom of that. But these things are pretty cheap and pretty powerful little processors. There was another product that Pomeranian released, which was this graphics pack. I didn't think it was as interesting as the Galactic Unicorn. So that's there as well. The Espoir, Sean's bought 5 of these or something, 4 of them, okay. Which is another PoE ESP32 board with MicroPython on the back of it here. Pretty neat little board, quite small, yeah, quite neat. Axwax has been doing all sorts of interesting things. This was one of the inkplate colors, so pinging comics from Mastodon, I believe. We'll keep going. Brian has been looking at doing gauges in MicroPython. This is a common theme. You'll see another couple of slides or another couple of tabs on this. But he ported a C library to run MicroPython. He's also ported it to CircuitPython as well. So if you need gauges, go check out Brian Wellesby's work. Speaking of the Galactic Unicorn, this was coupling it with a time of flight sensor. So you can basically see someone's hand there. Not a bad first effort to integrate the Galactic Unicorn with a time of flight sensor. I thought it was cute. MicroPython code, of course. There was a Mandelbrot set, so this is pretty nifty. Zooming in and out of a Mandelbrot set. They've used assembly for a lot of the mathematical stuff, but otherwise MicroPython's being used to glue all that together. That was cute. There is a resistor decoder. You can just dial in the colors and it'll tell you the resistor value. Nice. This is a CircuitPython one, but it's mostly because the camera interfacing is a bit nicer there. But doing handwriting recognition on a Raspberry Pi Pico, sort of from the ground up on how to do it. Well worth a look if you're into ML at the edge. This is actually a really neat GitHub on how to do. There was all this kerfuffle about the Teslas. You can actually pretty easily open up the petrol lid, whatever they're called, petrol port, although it's not petrol, of course. But basically, just using one of these with like a little antenna, a little, I think it's a Pomeranian Pico, but it's an RP2040 of some sort. Just spewing out the appropriate RF to trigger the opening of the port. Quite neat. ESP now on a couple of the little M5 devices, the Atoms. So once you start them all up, they all sort of connect and talk to each other and then communicate. And you'll see there, the communications are really quick, which is one of the benefits of ESP now. Or MicroPython. Home Buttons is a project that's mostly hardware and 3D printable stuff, but these are little buttons that can be pushed and there's some hardware design underneath them. They talk about all the different ways that this thing works. There's an e-paper device in the middle. They're a bit software agnostic at the moment, but this would be a neat little MicroPython project. Speaking of MicroPython projects, someone's super lazy and they wanted to roll some dice and they just rendered it on a frame buff. Cute. PKW Go is an extension for Visual Studio Code. Helps getting IntelliSense into VS Code. Quite nice. It's not very complete, but if you're only using the Raspberry Pi Picos, kind of useful. Not very complete in the sense it doesn't support other devices, doesn't support like MicroPython Summer project actually covers a lot more things. We've covered that in the past. More gauges. These look pretty amazing, but I haven't had a good chance to look at it yet. But rendering in MicroPython. LifeX controller. So this is a little display that turned on Luke's LifeX lights over the Wi-Fi interface, and he was good enough to publish the code as well, and the designs. I think he published those as well. Nice. And Angus, while we were talking about your other project, I thought it's worth mentioning that there's also some USB device drivers coming out. I don't know if you want to mention this or not. It's probably a little bit not quite as mature as the LoRa stuff yet. But the idea here is to allow you to create USB descriptors in Python, right? So you don't have to do it in C and expose it. And much easier to do it up in the upper layers. And one of the people that's been reviewing this, Paul Hampshire, did it with MIDI as well. So he's got a whole bunch of MIDI examples using Angus's PR. So this is all looking really good, really exciting stuff actually, because this would allow us to get HID or any of the USB sort of protocols implemented pretty quick.
Yeah, I did. This is what I mentioned at the start.
Sorry.
But yeah, this is good showing the link so people can see where to go.
Yeah, I thought it was good looking at it from the MIDI point of view, because looking at it from the application side was it was interesting.
Yeah, indeed.
That's all I got for you.